Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's edition of the Q-Files. This is a live broadcast. I want to share with you what's going on in the metals market. Now, we posted a little over a week ago, meaning we, SteveQuayle.com, in conjunction with Northeast Intelligence Network, the photographs of gold coins and precious metals on the front of, at that point, it was a Voice of Jihad. And today, I got an email from Laura Mansfield. Now, she was right on a week ago. Let me tell you what is basically happening in the metals market, and I think you're going to understand my statement that the whole world is getting ready to feast on the carcass of the United States financially. Here's what she said, Steve, based on what I'm reading today, and this is today, before the metals fell, ladies and gentlemen, she sent me this. And as she was sending this to me, silver went down into the 580 realm. Gold dropped down to about, 388. Right now, it's a given that Al-Qaeda, and when I say Al-Qaeda, I want to make this clear. It is not Al-Qaeda, the guys that are the terrorists blowing themselves and everyone else up. It was the power structure behind them, the very rich billionaire/trillionaire controllers of all terrorism, and that includes China and Russia. Now listen to this. She says, basically what is happening is Al-Qaeda appears to be planning to drive the markets down, then withdraw all Islamic funds. Similar things will happen with oil. The oil prices are going up as the supply is going down. When it reaches a certain level, and she says, at this point I don't know that level, then an attack will occur on the continental United States and or possibly Europe, with further attacks threatened if we do not leave the Middle East and unfreeze all frozen assets. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this means simply this, is that there is a point that, and I believe it's $5, that silver could hit $5 and rebound. It did the other day. It hit $5.50, I think, and then went all the way up to $6.25, a 75-cent move. The thing that you've got to understand is, as the powers that be in the world, I'm making that different than the New World Order people. I'm talking about the Chinese, Russians, and the Arabs, and the very wealthy Arabs who are trillionaires understand derivatives, okay? They have PhDs in economics, etc. So what they're going to do is they're going to force the hand. Now, the commitment of traders and a lot of the people who are short gold are being able to get out. They're getting basically a lifeline thrown to them by the international terrorist cartel. But again, the systematic withdrawal of all Arab funds from the United States, linked up and synced up with massive selling of the U.S. dollar by the nations around the world, is going to trigger just what it would be called Dante's Inferno of the financial markets. I don't know how to put it into perspective, but I want to share a story with you that I think is very important. A number of months ago, I was told that the number of clandestine nuclear weapons believed to be in New York alone is in the neighborhood of 5. If you know, Fox carried a story a couple days ago of 5 empty suitcases being placed throughout the city. Now, I haven't had time to map those, but I would venture to say they were put in such a way that the explosion overlapped each other and would give maximum damage and destruction. Now, I want to read to you tonight to put this into perspective. Immediately, the media stated, well, that's because there was luggage used on the train bombing in Madrid. They don't understand the correlation. I want to make this clear as I read this entire article, and it's called Personal Interview by Warren White with Ahmed Mohammed, an Islamic expert and author of An Islamic Conspiracy for World Conquest. Now, understand, I'm quoting a man that is more than aware of what the worldwide effect of jihad is really about. Now, let me read this to you because you've got to follow with me to understand what really happened in New York City a couple days ago with the 5 empty suitcases. In a recent interview with Ahmed Mohammed, author of An Islamic Conspiracy, I learned of his vast knowledge of the Middle East, terrorism, weapons of mass destruction, and an in-depth understanding of Islam itself. White, with weapons of mass destruction as a top agenda for most Western nations, what can you tell me about them? Well, here's what Mohammed said. They have actually found most of the ones from Iraq already without knowing it. Most of the weapons of mass destruction were trucked out of Iraq to Syria prior to the invasion. They were then flown to Libya, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia. The ones in Egypt and Libya have already been accounted for internationally. While that is truly going on in those two countries, we still need to find out where the others have been located, and they need to be divulged and exposed because there is a bigger picture than what is being shown to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I've been trying to talk about, and thank God, I mean that literally, for validation on this. Can your statements be corroborated? Mohammed: I would be willing to speak out and give evidence to what I am saying, but in doing so, my life would be placed in jeopardy as well as those of others. Without proper protection afforded to me and others, it would be difficult for me to tell all I know. White: what would you cite as the failures of the coalition? Mohammed: easy. Western intelligence in the Mideast lacks a correct knowledge base. They believe they have a handle on everything without understanding the Arabs. Arab ideology doesn't care about what the West thinks. Now, understand this, but the West believes they understand Arab ideology, which they don't. White: what do you see in the future? Here is something really critical. I'll go through this slow. Muslims will strike the U.S. very hard repeatedly with portable nuclear, chemical, and biological weapons. They will be used in massive suicide attacks carried out by sleeper cells in the U.S. Where these attacks will begin before the presidential election depends on various factors. The outcome of President Mubarak's upcoming visit to Washington in April and that of the G8 summit in June will determine whether America will be struck before the election. Now, if the West is not dissuaded from implementing the Greater Middle East Reform Initiative, which would result in removing the existing Arab regimes, then America will be hit before the election, possibly in September and October. The immediate aim is to strike and to intimidate Bush, causing a failure at the poll and to set Kerry up to win. Mubarak, now listen to this, Mubarak, on behalf of Arab rulers who resist GME, visited Italy, France, and Britain in the beginning of March to try and dissuade them from joining the United States in the Greater Middle East Initiative and the war against terror. Before he went, now listen to this, the authorities in France and the UK were directed to several decoy bombs and threat notes placed in remote spots along their railway tracks. The French and British were not impressed enough, and Mubarak went back home empty-handed on March 9th. A couple of days later, however, the Madrid train bombings took place. Aznar was wasted, and the new government is pulling out of Iraq and deserting the war against terror. Europe is now so impressed and intimidated that it's reconsidering its position regarding the Greater Middle East program. Now, White, that is an ominous prediction. Would you care to expand? Listen to this. Certainly, what you saw happen on the Madrid trains is a preview to what is to come in the U.S. after the elections are over. Everyone feels the Americans will not be able to handle what is coming when the bomb blasts are a weekly event and become a common occurrence with no one's neighborhood being exempt from attacks. When it gets as bad as it can get over there, the speculation will be wide-ranging from nothing to total capitulation. With a liberal government seated in power, that's talking about the U.S., what are they going to do? There will never be a clear-cut enemy to place a finger on. The terrorist cells are there in the U.S. waiting for the signal to begin. Not only Al-Qaeda and Hamas, but also Islamic Jihad and a wide assortment of subgroups. The rest of the world will be mired deep down in jihad. Paris and Berlin are not going to be exempt from this coming terror. They have only been spared from the Holocaust because of their lack of participation in the coalition. Once the coalition is defeated out of Iraq, it will be their turn. Think about it. France is one of the highest Muslim populations of any nation in Europe. White, how does the world stop this impending doom? Mohammed, by going for the head of the Islamic terrorist snake instead of the tail. It's futile and counterproductive to go after Al-Qaeda fighters, the tail, and leave its founders and sponsors the head. Osama bin Laden, who has not left Saudi Arabia since 9/11, may be dead by now. Al-Qaeda is very much alive because the actual head is alive. White, could we have prevented 9/11 with knowledge and intelligence now available? Mohammed, there is no way to stop all the impending attacks, just like there was no way to stop 9/11. I don't care what Bush or his predecessor did or didn't do. 9/11 was inevitable. If the Arab radicals conclude today that the coalition was going to remain steadfast and not disintegrate, in 6 months the attacks would start tomorrow. All evidence is that the coalition is going to fall apart. Once it becomes a clear victory for the Islamic forces, the jihad will begin that will change human history forever. Now listen to this, White. How do you see the upcoming U.S. election? Mohammed, Even if America rallies behind Bush, there are going to be numerous incidences for many committees to discuss in the future. The one on 9/11 that has just concluded didn't do anything but to spur fundamentalist attitude that they've already won. I see the American politics as kaleidoscope. Adjust the ring a little, and it intermittently takes on a whole new picture. The greatest change will come in November 2005 after the U.S. is cleared out of Iraq. By then, the world will see the mistakes and will be unsure how to change it. Do you have any last thoughts to pass on? Mohammed. The Mideast is a focal point of human history as well as its future. The future for the world is indeed bleak, and we may be facing Armageddon or Judgment Day. Those are his words, should we not stop the Islamic Jihad. Now, ladies and gentlemen, again, this gentleman has written a book called An Islamic Conspiracy for World Conquest. I want to share with you now what I know and maybe get some of you thinking beyond the boxes and even beyond the hour. First of all, when those 5 suitcase nukes were placed in the appropriate positions, and I believe there's enough information, if somebody wants to map those and then tell me how far they are, I would really appreciate it. But here's the deal. The 5 empty suitcases was a message sent. And by the way, there are messages sent and deals trying to be made all the time. What that basically said to me is that it was validation from the terrorists. And again, understand, I do not believe it is simply Al-Qaeda, okay? I make that statement because invariably I get moronic emails. Don't you know who's really behind it? Yeah, like, get with it, Joe Jerk. I've been doing this for 30 years and talking about it for 10 years and have done over 5,000 radio shows, or 5,000 hours of radio shows, so I do understand. But here's what's important. What's important for you to understand is that the presence of Mubarak trying to dissuade, prior to the Madrid train bombings, the different nations to get out of the, if you will, coalition of the willing, has now come full circle. And where we're at is that a message has been sent. The message is simply this. The 5 nukes that you guys know we have, those suitcases represent what we can do whenever we want to do it. Now let me flip the whole show and go into the economy, because I think that's really important. It used to be my question, which would precede which? Nuclear war resulting in economic chaos and collapse, or economic chaos and collapse before the nuclear situation? I don't believe that there's one out of, let me make this clear, 1 out of 10,000 Americans that understands the nature of worldwide jihad. If it's taken in the context of the New World Order, the end times, biblical revelation, all that, seriously. Because what we're fighting for is not just, and I got to share this with you, Doug Hagman has done an incredible investigative job with the different analysts at Northeast Intelligence. He'll be dealing tomorrow with all of the purported pictures coming out of Iraq, and you're going to be amazed to find out who's really behind that. But listen, when you're going for the brass ring, world domination, everything is open to you. So many brain-dead people on specific brain-dead bulletin boards have not grasped the fact that we have a Trojan horse in this country because we've had open borders and pretty much open immigration. I am a believer that anybody who comes to the United States must swear an oath of allegiance to the United States. Look, if you've got a 5th column within this country and they own all the gas stations, the hotels, restaurant chains are in control of communications, have deep penetration of the military and the intelligence field, have access to the promised software. The bottom line is you can see how there is a plan being put into place, and that is going to take place in this waiting period. The point that I want to bring out to you tonight is this. Before silver started getting really squirrely, silver and gold coins were showing up on some of the different Arab publications, specifically related to jihad. And when Laura told me today that there's a new publication, she said, don't forget, Steve, they always tell us what they're going to do. This is no top secret. This is nothing. But here's what I'm trying to say. We never take what defectors tell us to heart as the truth. We have had some of the most phenomenal intelligence successes, yet they turned to failures because we didn't believe what the guys were telling us. I'll give you a good example. The good example that I know is the highest-ranking defector in the history of the world, to my knowledge, is XU, pronounced Xu, Jinping, Z-U-N-P-I-N-G, kind of like jumping, only Jinping, with an N instead of an M. He was the head of all espionage for the government of China and the CSIS, Chinese Secret Intelligence Service, over the United States. What he started to tell was fabulously rich, yet in our responses to the information have been null and nil. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's what I'm trying to say to you tonight. The very fact that people don't understand how the metals markets can be manipulated at this point, and look, all it is the paper markets being manipulated. I'm telling you that they who understand derivatives are ready to cause the derivative market to fall. Remember the statements of Tatiana Karajnia when I had, I played the tape and we interviewed Rick over it, and the deal is that he called her and she told him exactly what was going to happen. Again, we get bent out of shape in this country. For instance, today in Washington, D.C., another white powder envelope was found. Parts of the specific part of Washington, D.C. was shut down, but that's a little unnerving. I can tell you this, that imagine, let me just give you a good example. Imagine 100 service stations or 200 service stations being blown up concurrently and simultaneously on a given day in Southern California. If the average, let's just say this, the average service station, maybe 40,000 gallons, okay? So if you had 40,000 gallons and you had 100 of those going off, ladies and gentlemen, the numbers are just absolutely staggering. Now, again, I said I've often wondered, and some of you have wondered with me and to me, and we've talked about it for a lot of years, what would proceed? Would the economic collapse proceed? I am telling you, as I know it now, absolutely, the truck strike, there will be a truck strike unless something is done. It's being talked about through the truckers on the radios, on different bulletin boards. There will be a truck strike either in June or the month following, July, because simply gasoline and diesel are going through the roof. In Bozeman, Montana, you guys, look, we live in you know, pretty much the mountains. But our gasoline jumped 9 cents in one day. And a guy in Upper Peninsula, Michigan, one of my listeners sent me a thing saying, Steve, we jumped 20 cents in one day. Now, if you don't recognize what's going on, who's the head? Who's the head? Who controls the oil? Okay? Those who control the oil control the terrorists. And the deal is, ladies and gentlemen, is this country does not have the testicular fortitude at this point, or a strong enough leadership, and being under judgment doesn't help to do what's right. So what's going to happen? I've been mocked so many years for saying the country is going to come to a standstill. I don't care. There's only one I live for to please, and that is the living God. Listen, here's the deal. The same people that praise you one day will damn you the next. I watch that every day on my email. You know, people don't like it. People love it when I have Doug on, and yet there's one or two people that hate it when Doug's on. And they leave me these really gutless messages. You don't know that, you know, he's not you. Well, look, of course he's not me. But here's the deal. His information is important, and it's firsthand when he's the lead investigator. You don't know how privileged you are. And then to have the analysis skills of Elisa Robinson, and to have a Laura Mansfield and Sean Osborne and all these people, this is a big deal. And ladies and gentlemen, I am amazed at how much crap is thrown to people who donate their time, put their lives on the line, but what I would call, I won't even call them armchair quarterbacks or couch generals. I would call them absolutely vegetating morons that are absolutely incapable of thought. And if you presented them with the truth, because they've spent the majority of their life complaining and murmuring, they would never accept it as truth in the first place. So those are my thoughts on the armchair quarterbacks. Look, listen to everything I say, take it, and for those of you that want to take it with a grain of salt, fine. But then go out and do your homework and ask yourself this: what message is being sent? What message is being sent when 5 empty suitcases are placed within a blast radius of specific and key locations, and guess what? Nobody even started to pick up on it. You understand what I'm saying? Oh, I'm in outer space with this one. Not one moronic, brain-dead, pulsating through their veins newspaper even began, or magazine. Does that surprise me? No. But you're not in the dark. You've got to know this stuff. Because, again, there are people that listen to this show in New York. There are people that listen to this show all over the bloody place. And the deal is that I would like to think that being forewarned is being given a key. Now, do you think there's a reason why Mayor Bloomberg of the Bloomberg Financial Network just put a $5 million anti-rocket package on his Gulfstream? Do you think there's a reason why he did that, ladies and gentlemen? Of course. Number one, he doesn't want to die. And number two, he's got intel. And the deal is that just like that little message that used to pop up, you've got mail or whatever, here's the deal. You've got to recognize that we're not talking about an interruption of the American way of life. We are talking about total judgment, total destruction, and we're talking about it not just on a local level, but on a worldwide level. Let me tell you a story. The other day someone showed up in my office, a friend of mine, just got back from Europe and had one of the most fascinating talks with someone that came out of a European country's intelligence. So much so, the guy would not allow his picture to be taken. But he said this, he said, in a very short time, and he said it's on the horizon and coming fast. I believe that was a reference to what's coming out of the sky. He said, all life on this planet as we know it's going to change. Now, I'm going to tell you something. My friend is incredibly smart. He knows what he's talking about. He's got the whole picture. And he had sent some of the tapes of Alex Jones and others over there so they could get their people could see exactly what's getting ready to happen in the United States. And you know what? Listen to this. Here's what the statement was made to him. And this was in Germany. He said, you know what? We have more freedom in Germany than you have in the United States. You know what the perception of the Americans are? And I don't care what our press is. Do you know what the perceptions are? Is that we're turning into a police state / dictatorship. And he said my friend was told, he said, you do not even see it coming. And my friend said, yes, I do. But the point that I'm trying to make for you is this. Specific information was given to him about what's on the horizon. Now, I thought that what's on the horizon, the guy, my friend said when he talked about this, by the way, the guy was an older, distinguished, probably spy master for all I know, but the point is, he used such language and such understanding. He said, Steve, what I knew, this guy knew every word I was going to speak or declare, he already knew it. And he said, remember this to my friend, and his name will be nameless. He said, the horizon, the events coming on the horizon will change the world forever. Okay, What can I share with you outside of that? I can share with you this, that a lot of people do not get it yet, okay? I'd really, really like you to know that you must pay more attention to this stuff because, again, I am telling you that the whole world, look, the Iraqi torture pictures, and Doug will go into that, so many of those things are absolutely not authentic, okay? They're not authentic. Crap, they're not authentic. But do you think that, how do I say this, the Arab world is going to welcome the President of the United States on television and take his apology for anything? And second of all, ladies and gentlemen, there is an unseen hand even there that seems to control the U.S. military. Ask yourself this, who has the ability to take over a military prison and initiate interrogation and torture? The answer is what's apparent. Now, here's the thing. In every war, there's psychological warfare, there's mental terror, there's physical terror. But what people don't understand is, and this is what I'm really trying to communicate clearly, is that we know from the book of Revelation that even the spirits that have been bound are loosed from the Tigris-Euphrates River. But also all hell literally comes down to earth. A friend of mine was talking to me about having a contact with a psychologist, and my friend said, and I believe the psychologist is a Christian, but she said this, she said she has never encountered as many, and these are her words, demon-possessed people in her practice as she's now encountering. She says it's almost like someone turned on the switch. I maintain, and only God knows the answer to this one, but I maintain when the Christians were silent on the Ten Commandments, when the Christians were silent on every other issue that we've been silent on, and forgive me, I don't believe we're the silent majority. I don't believe that we're the sleeping majority. I believe that we are the, let me say this, how do I say this really well? That we live in sarcophaguses and we're concerned with what's on the outside, but have no sustenance on the inside. In other words, don't blame the people that don't know Jesus for this mess we're in. It's the Christians. The Bible even states that judgment begins at the house of God. Why do you think God's judgment begins within His own house? Because the Lord always deals with the root of the problem, not the fruit of the problem. See, this is what I read to you about Dr. Muhammad in his book. He's saying, look, you guys are going to, keep dealing with the tail of the snake, and you're missing the head of the snake. And it's really tough to cut off the head of the snake when you're in financial bed with the head of the snake. Ladies and gentlemen, you can count on this, that if gas hits $3 a gallon and stays there for probably over 30 days, you've got civil war in this country. And I got to tell you something, you better just pray for every trucker you know. And those of you that have substance, you better just pray and pray for those guys and help them out financially. I wish that somehow we could help the independent truckers financially. Because you understand, it's not just the stuff we brush our teeth with, or shampoo our hair with, or put in our stomach, or wipe our butts with, I'm sorry. But the point is, it's our future. You follow me? One generation builds so that another generation can step in and carry on. But I'm afraid that this is the generation that destroys everything. And look, I got 5 kids. I know a lot of you have kids. And I think about their children. I think, oh my God, how have we failed you? Ladies and gentlemen, I can only say that because it's the end times and the hour is late, that we do not need as Christians to fear. But what we need to do is get real. I'm amazing. I'm so amazed. I'm not amazing. I'm amazed by just the incredible apathy. I got to share something with you. I can say that of every Christian I personally know that, let's see, I'm just doing a quick count in my head. Not one of them that I know, locally, has ever, to my knowledge, stepped out publicly and made a proclamation of faith, Not one of them I know has currently led anybody to Jesus Christ. Not one of them I know takes the end times seriously, and not one of them I know is active in their pursuit or passion of the living God. And ladies and gentlemen, I know a lot. I know a lot of people in that realm. So,